And join us you shall, because on tonight's program here, a lot has been going on, a lot has been happening, and it's time to go ahead and get caught up on a couple of things here in particular here. So on tonight's program, what we're going to be examining here is about the model minority strategy is backfiring. I want to get into that right after we do a little bit of housekeeping in that regard, because I do want to go ahead and remind people of exactly what's going on out here. As black people, from time to time, you hear folks yelling at us about supporting other people's agenda and other people's struggles and so on and so forth. And a lot of people have been wringing their hands about why it is that we've been quiet. And it's things like what I'm going to show you here tonight that are the perfect example of why it is we're quiet. They're not asking that because they don't understand. They're asking that precisely because they do understand. Here's a story here that I posted before here from the New York Post. Asian parents claim New York STEM program discriminates against their kids in favor of black Hispanic students. I want you to see what this says, though, because there's something in particular I want you to see here. A little bit of background on the story here itself. Asian parents filed a federal discrimination suit against the New York State Education Department Wednesday, claiming their kids are being unfairly kept out of a STEM summer program in favor of black and Hispanic students, which most likely means more black. The state-funded Science and Technology Entry Program, STEP, admits around 11,000 7th to 12th grade students a year for classes at 56 participating colleges and medical schools statewide. The pre-college enrichment program aims to, quote, increase the number of historically underrepresented and economically disadvantaged students prepared to enter college and improve their participation rates in math, science, tech, and health fields, according to its website. But while black, Hispanic, and Native American students can apply regardless of family wealth, Asian and white school kids need to meet certain low-income criteria, the lawsuit filed in upstate New York federal courts claims. Quote, in other words, the Hispanic child of a multimillionaire is eligible to apply to STEP, while an Asian American child whose family earns just above the state's low-income threshold is not, solely because of her race or ethnicity, the filing states. And that's not actually what it means. It meant exactly what it said, that in these fields, these underrepresented Asians are not underrepresented in the medical field. They have no problems there. So the real question is, by the way, why are they not having the same problems? The allegedly biased admissions criterion has been in place for nearly 4 decades, the suit claims, adding, quote, 39 years of discrimination is enough. This has people saying these are your Asian allies. Not in 1964, but in 2024. Not in 1964, but 2024. Now, listen to this next part here. Plaintiffs include New York-based Yitin Chu of the Asian Wave Alliance, who said she was stunned when she first heard of STEP's policy a few weeks ago and decided to join the suit, which also names Education Commissioner Betty Rosa as a defendant. Now, I'm going down here. It says other plaintiffs include the Chinese American Citizens Alliance of Greater New York, Inclusive Education Advocacy Group, and Hire with Our Parent Engagement. Attorneys for both the Pacific Legal Foundation and the Anti-Affirmative Action Group Equal Protection Project of the Legal Insurrection Foundation, what a name there, are representing them in the case. The EPP, Equal Protection Project, has filed lawsuits and civil rights complaints with the U.S. Education Department against New York colleges for allegedly promoting discriminatory racial preference admission policies for academic programs. So we want you to understand that's what you're taking a look at here. So when people ask us why we come down the way we do in many cases here, just understand you don't have black people filing lawsuits left, right, every other week in federal court or any other court targeting Asians. That's my point. Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley and Kamala Harris, there are no black people who have formed legal organizations specifically for the purposes of targeting Asians. Now, that's the thing I want you to keep in mind. There are no black people getting up every week asking how can they target Asians in court to take away their rights, funding, resources. Black folk don't do that. That's not the case. And that's why I wanted to start with this story here first. I wanted to start with this story first because I wanted to put everything else that you're going to see here next into its proper context. Now, I started here in New York, but where we're going to go here next is on the other side of the country. Let's go hang out here in California for a minute. There's a story from Fox 11 Los Angeles, and I want you to see what this story has to say. By the way, while these folks are in court targeting us, and it's not just in New York, it's all across the country, by the way, while they're in court targeting us because Minority Coalition, of course, here's what's happening on the other side of the country.
Yeah, Christine, for more than 50 years, Suehiro Cafe called Little Tokyo down the street home. That ended today. And activists say it is just one more sign that more needs to be done to preserve the historic neighborhood.
Tony Spurrier, you're doomed to fail!
Tony Spurrier, you're doomed to fail!
Little Tokyo's not for sale!
A protest and a promise.
We'll be back!
Outside the now shuttered Suehiro Cafe in Little Tokyo. The restaurant moved after a long legal battle and eviction by landlord Tony Spurl. And local activists say it's the latest victim of a growing problem.
So many of our historic communities are being ravaged by gentrification. Stores that have been here for 50 years are being forcibly evicted due to landlords wanting to kick them out and bring in, quote-unquote, better businesses that might.
Okay, these are not black folk doing this. These are not black people filing these lawsuits. These are not black people who are the landlords. Their black folk are their customers. They've got nothing but help from black people across the country, from New York to San Francisco. They've gotten nothing but help from black folk, and yet this is what they've been doing, by the way. This is what's happening to them while they're in New York trying to target us and in Los Angeles trying to target us. By the way, the folks that they're going to court holding hands with, those folk are targeting them. Let's hear some more.
Make more profit.
They are calling on landlords and the city to protect legacy businesses and to give them a bigger say in what replaces shops like Suehiro.
They're asking for landlords and the city. Did you hear that? Landlords and the city. So in other words, you mean the government. So you want the government to give you preferential treatment. You want the government to give you discriminatory preferential treatment. Well, isn't that interesting? The same folks who are in court targeting our children. Let's be very, very clear. They're not even targeting adults. They're targeting children. I've always told you about their white supremacy. White supremacy has had a very, very interesting kinship with certain groups. And then you find out those groups operate the same. I've always taught you the white supremacy's core edict is to target children. And then you see these other folk get together and align with them. And the first thing they do is target children. They go after kids. And meanwhile, they've got other things on their plate, but you can see what they're directly demanding while they're targeting your children, our children. And yet they're saying that they want the government to give them preferential treatment.
Make more profit.
They are calling on landlords and the city to protect legacy businesses and to give them a bigger say in what replaces shops like Suehiro. Little Tokyo business owner Naoko Ikeda was in tears as she talked about a long list of friends who've been pushed out.
I feel very sad people leaving this up here. from our Japanese community.
They say it's especially hurtful because the neighborhood survived for more than a century. Even after Japanese American residents were forced into internment camps, they returned to reclaim businesses or start new ones.
Okay, they return to start businesses and then go straight to work targeting black people. Yes, they hated the internment camp so much and they hated being targeted for their race so much that they have gone on a legal jihad to target us based on race. But meanwhile, the folks they're holding hands with are making sure that they will not have an inheritance in the land and are removing them. And now they're screaming, we want the government to step in and give us, when they say a say, they don't mean a verbal say. They mean they want money. They want resources because they don't have the money or resources. They want the government to give them preferential treatment, give them financial resources while they're literally in federal court filing lawsuits to deprive black children.
To lose them now.
And more recently, my mom and I decided to take on Onzen Hardware, a store that my grandfather opened just after the war, to keep it alive, right? And in order for us to keep it alive, we had to move a store.
It's a long continuing insult because, as people know, Japanese Americans were forced into the U.S. concentration camps during World War II. And then after that, after we came back, we kept getting moved from one place to another.
As for Suehiro, activists are promising to boycott whatever replaces it. And although Kenji Suzuki is saddened he had to move his restaurant, he says the biggest heartbreak are the changes in Little Tokyo.
We're lucky enough to find a new spot, but some of the elderlies that are being displaced, they've been living here for decades. They're on a fixed income. Where are they going to go? Why are we kicking them out? They are the reason why there is a Little Tokyo in the first place.
Okay, well, now Tony and his friends have come in to bring a little Italy or a little Europe, a weed dispensary, apparently. So all of a sudden he's saying that, he's obviously objecting to being targeted. He feels they're being targeted because of their race and found that to be very interesting. Found that to be very interesting, how that works.
So Suehiro Cafe now has a location in Chinatown and also in downtown LA. As for its now old location in Little Tokyo, activists say they've heard that a marijuana dispensary is moving in there. We have not been able to confirm that.
So let me get this straight. He's unhappy because he's got 3 or 4 restaurants and he wanted to keep the location of the first one. He's got other restaurants. He's like, yeah, but what about my 3rd or 4th one? These are the folks filing lawsuits against black children to make sure that the next generation of black children don't even get a start of any kind. That's the point I'm trying to make here. That's the point I'm trying to make here, and the folk that they're holding hands with are targeting them. Well, we would like to tell them, or at least we would like to say here that maybe the heat is off, and we would like to say that maybe things are going to get better here, but actually, no, the heat is indeed on. This again from Fox LA. And for those of you who didn't know, Los Angeles' San Fernando Valley taco spots face drama between one another. Now, folks, hang on to your enchiladas because I want you to hear this story. I want you to hear this. It is something that I've been telling you about for a while, and it is something that will continue here. This is a little known thing, but I want you all to listen carefully to how this story goes.
Here in Southern California, people love street food, and you can find street vendors like right behind me almost anywhere. But these small restaurants say these vendors are creating a difficult time for them. They say the competition isn't fair.
Hot chili? Large albondiga, okay. 2 crispy beef, okay. Side of rice and side of bean. Anything else?
Hot Chili Mexican Food in Granada Hills is a small, long-time family-owned business described by customers as
best kept secret in town. So we keep coming back. It's really good.
really good food, but maybe not good enough to survive the street vendor competition. Jenny Pack is the owner of Hot Chili. She says sales are down 35%.
Sales are down 35%. Well, that's not a little. Oh, boy. And yet you can't say it's pandemic related either. And by the way, don't worry. This has layers to it here. This has layers.
I'm losing. Believe it or not, I'm losing.
About a block away to the north of the restaurant En Balboa, there are 4 sidewalk vendors. To the south, a few more.
Too many. And then nothing I can do. Nothing.
Tal vez está un poco más barato.
Employee Elva Hidalgo says street tacos are cheaper because the sellers don't have rent expenses.
I mean, look at that. That's only for like $12 right there.
I hope you don't get sick.
Christopher Favela is a street vendor in the San Fernando Valley. What about the small business owners who are struggling to compete with all the street vendors?
Well, they just need to step up their game and do it better.
If it's a big restaurant.
Now, did you hear that? Oh, let me back this up now. This is Mr. Favela, and he's got some advice for the model minorities out there, by the way, who are complaining.
Street tacos are cheaper because the sellers don't have rent expenses.
I mean, look at that. That's only for like $12 right there.
Christopher Favela is a street vendor in the San Fernando Valley. What about the small business owners who are struggling to compete with all the street vendors?
Well, they just need to step up their game and do it better.
If it's a big restaurant, maybe it's a different situation. But like me, I'm struggling and I'm a small restaurant, and then I don't think the city really care.
Not only is Jenny dealing with massive competition.
I'm not Mexican. I'm Korean American.
A Korean.
Did you hear that?
Not only is Jenny dealing with massive competition.
I'm not Mexican. I'm Korean American.
A Korean American selling Mexican food.
Ay, que le dicen que China, que dónde está la China.
Elva says she has personally witnessed rude customers say, quote, "Why is a China selling Mexican food?"
Sometimes they're walking through and I say, "Hello, hola, ¿cómo estás?" And they look at me like this.
How hurtful is that?
Oh, it makes me tear. It hurt really bad.
Despite the struggles, Jenny will continue to sell her food for as long as possible.
Hola, hi. ¿Cómo está? Un momento, señora, okay? Gracias, gracias.
She's hoping city officials will do something to help small businesses like hers.
I gotta survive. I gotta pay rent. I gotta pay tax. I gotta survive.
Uh-huh. Found that interesting there, by the way. Oh, now, this puts the comments you heard from Mr. Favela earlier here in a different light now, doesn't it?
Don't have rent expenses.
I mean, look at that. That's only for like $12 right there.
Christopher Favela is a street vendor in the San Fernando Valley. What about the small business owners who are struggling to compete with all the street vendors?
Well, they just need to step up their game and do it better.
If it's a big restaurant, maybe it's a...
They just need to step up their game and do it better. Oh, boy. Yeah, boy, I'm telling you, weren't exactly expecting that now, were you? Weren't exactly expecting that now, were they? And I just couldn't help but notice, that does sound a little familiar to me. Sounds like something I've heard somewhere else, as a matter of fact.
More money for you. You working. No more money for you. Bye. Go back, cross the No more money for you. No more money for you.
Interesting.
Lazy. No more money for you.
Yeah, I just couldn't help but notice that, by the way, that attitude seems strikingly familiar to me. For some strange reason, the attitude is strikingly familiar.
Like $12 right there.
Christopher Favela is a street vendor in the San Fernando Valley. What about the small business owners who are struggling to compete with all the street vendors?
Well, they just need to step up their game and do it better.
Street vendors.
Well, they just need to step up their game and do it better.
Street vendors.
Well, they just need to step up their game and do it better.
Yeah, buddy. I just couldn't help but notice the attitude. That's the part that kind of stuck out to me there. I kind of noticed the attitude that's been accumulating there. You start to see those kind of things and whatnot. Now, just remember, while they're sitting up here targeting black children, they're going to court targeting black children shamelessly, demonically, wickedly, targeting black children with federal lawsuits. And meanwhile, these other folk here that they working hand in hand with, by the way, because remember in Los Angeles, you've had a very clear situation where they were telling you there was going to be this Asian Latino alliance, remember? The Asians and Latinos, by the way, that's a thing out there, not just in California, but probably most expressed in California. But while the Asians and the Latinos were going to get together and gang up on black folk, was what it was going to be. Well, since there's Asians and Latinos, since we've been allowed to make an economic base, we're going to go ahead and target the black. We're going to work together with each other and target the black folk here. But looks like somebody's broken ranks. Looks like they broke ranks. It looks like they've broken ranks, and it looks like folks have decided here to do things a little bit different. While you were sitting up here worried about us, while you're sitting up here targeting us, by the way, the only folks who are doing nothing to you, by the way, not doing anything to you, and yet, take a look at this coming at your blind side. Take a look at this coming at you sideways. Tough position to be in. Tough position to be in, probably because your eye is off the ball. But then again, I guess you figure that is the ball to keep in mind, is that we're going to target these black children. How wicked and evil is that? That you're going to target black children. And we've been asking the same question. By the way, where is the Asian community to talk about? Because these are campaigns. We're not talking about one little old lady getting mugged somewhere. We're talking about funded. This is basically like a shadow government funding legal assaults on us and more importantly, our children. When you see Ed Blum and the rest of his white supremacist scum kind, you notice this is why we were saying, by the way, where's the Anti-Defamation League and AIPAC and everyone else here? By the way, where are they? Ed Blum is running all around the damn Supreme Court and everything else. And yet our Jewish organizations have been completely quiet. Not a word. He's been running around for years now, and not a word has been said about that. Not a word. Certainly no one confronting this. Not a word. Not a word. And then with these other folks here, by the way, while they're targeting us, I just thought I would let you all know that, by the way, they found themselves in the crosshairs. They're finding themselves in the crosshairs now, and it's going to be a hard road to hoe because this is a monster you've helped create. This is a monster you've helped build. And now, by the way, did you notice the similarity between these two stories here? both of these Asians or groups here are talking about they want the city to step in. They want the city to step in now. And that's the part I want you to understand. Now they're sitting up here suing because they don't want the government involved where black children are concerned. Never mind, black children have no opportunities. And yet these folks here working on their third or fourth restaurant, and yet they're all saying, well, we want the government to step in. Now, for the black folk there, oh, no, we need to sue. And no, you need to compete. Okay, well, you all need to compete. Oh, we can't win. Okay, well, wow. Well, we're being targeted, so we can't compete. Okay, well, it's going to be a rough ride here, so you can't have it both ways. Can't have it both ways. You cannot have it both ways. And you're finding out you won't have it both ways. You won't. You got bigger fish to fry. You've got bigger things to take care of here. Or at least you would if you actually saw it that way, which you don't, which is fine. But I just wanted to take this as an opportunity to remind you all that across the board here, you're seeing as the vice is squeezing. While they're trying to hobble our children, the folks they're working with are gentrifying them left and right because they've taken their eye off the ball. And eventually what is going to happen is these areas that they call Chinatown, sitting on all these prime pieces of real estate, the little Tokyos and whatnot sitting on these prime pieces of real estate, what they're going to find out is that they're going to be removed and they will be scattered around. They won't even be able to get together in groups. They're going to be scattered. Hard to form a community when there's one Japanese person over here and one Japanese person way over there, another Japanese person way back there. Kind of hard to make that occur. But that's what you'll be left with. And that's where they are now. See, that's what you were being maneuvered into while you were letting Ed Blum tell you, don't worry, you and I will work together to knock off those undesirables. That's it. You and me are going to get together and gang up on the children of the undesirables. And now, yeah, there you are. Now, there's a lesson to be learned in this regard. There's a lesson to be learned in this regard, and the silence that you hear from black society is for a reason. Because we've been watching and witnessing and seeing this occur, and we've brought it to people's attention, and folks have been kind of wishy-washy on it. So since they have decided to witness things like this occurring to our children and we're being met with deafening silence, they're not calling each other out for this kind of thing. We're being met with deafening silence. Well, guess what? Now we're being silent. You can't get upset for us for not speaking up one way or the other. We're falling back and being completely silent here. After all, you're the ones who brought these people in. You're the ones who made them comfortable. You're the ones who gave them an entryway. Because you thought that they were going to help you go after us. They were going to help you dispossess us, and then you all would sit there and get to divvy up the spoils of what you've taken from us. And meanwhile, you didn't realize that, by the way, he was already loading you up on the plate. You didn't see that coming. The reason that you didn't see it coming is because you've bought into white supremacy. All that talk about stop Asian hate and being a model minority, what you were saying was that you bought into white supremacy. Don't worry, me and them see things the same way. We both agree on the same thing about you Negroes. Yeah, but here's the problem. The problem is they're not interested in an alliance or a coalition with you. And they've already put the pieces in place to neutralize you. You're here to be useful pawns in their game. You're just pawns that they use to promote their interests and to promote their goals when they go into court. But the goal is not to go to court to empower you. The goal is to go to the courts to use you to empower themselves. And that's exactly what you see occurring. That is exactly what you see happening. It's not accidental. And it never has been. And more importantly, it never has been. You are the ones who were deceived and fooled about it here. And by the way, they will continue to do so, because every time you see something like this happen, the problem is they're in too deep. So every time they see something like this occur, they're going to come up with a rationale and some reason they're going to give themselves to say, okay, this is all right, this is happening. But they're going to stay the course. They're going to stay the course, and they are going to be waiting for that other pivot to come back where they finally get welcomed in, and that's not the way it works. So it's going to be this ebb and flow, and every time you start getting a little bit too big, you get moved to the side, and then you have to get your feet kicked out from under you, and then you have to start over again. When you are to a point that you've got whole parts of town that are named after you and your people, and yet you're going to the city hoping that the city will allow you to keep it. Hoping that the city will allow you to keep it. Hoping that the city will allow you, that the city will step in and overturn the free market. So let me get this straight. You're going to federal court to demand that black children be subject to an open air free market society where you already have dominance and advantage, which is what you're looking for there. That's the only reason you're doing that. And yet here you are begging for the city, begging for the government to step in and protect you from the free market. You want them to protect you from the people that you've been empowering, thinking they'd go after us. Well, they certainly have gone after us. There's no doubt about that. They're also going after you. And while you're looking at us, the folks that you're helping are looking at you and saying, by the way, let me make sure we kick the feet out from up under you. That's the point I'm making to you all. This woman is Korean. These folk are Japanese. And all of them are being destabilized. She's Korean. They're Japanese. All of them are being destabilized. All of them. All of them. What I'm telling you is that the model minority strategy has backfired. And they're finding this out a little bit too late, but your model minority strategy has already backfired. You've been used for what you're useful for. You are useful pawns, and now they've made sure that your expiration date is already stamped in. They're making sure of that before they even get started. Your expiration date has already been stamped in. So you see, now it's just a process. When you follow this through to its eventual conclusion, the eventual conclusion is that, by the way, at the end, you get removed too. If you follow the game plan the white supremacists and you put together, if you follow it to its natural conclusion, you get removed also. That's the whole point, is that, by the way, at the end of this model minority strategy, you get removed too. I bring that up here because, believe it or not, folks, believe it or not, I know this is going to shock a good number of people here. I've actually got something not as usually critical to say about Roland Martin. What? Yeah, I know. Bit of a surprise and a shock to me too, as a matter of fact here, by the way. But yeah, no less than Bowling Ball Martin, by the way. No less than Bowling Ball Martin. Believe it or not. I know it's going to shock you there, but we're going to take a very brief non-commercial break. And when I come back here, yeah, believe it or not, Roland might have actually done something that was not incompetent for a change and was actually worth taking a look at. We will come back to that here shortly. Before we do, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, Venmo. Thank you very much for your support. We appreciate that here. To Mr. Ricky, thank you very much for your support. I appreciate that, brother. B1 Media is a lifesaver. Amadou, Mark B., thank you very much for your support. Among that and everyone else here. Let me go ahead and take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When we come back, yeah, it's true. This is the Black Channel.
Hello, my name is Steve Burgess, and I'm the author of this book, Guidelines for the Successful Student, a closer look at parenting your school-aged child. In this book, I've explained the role of the parent and the student in addition to what accommodations, procedures, rewards and consequences and expectations that need to be in place to ensure student success from primary to high school. This book is available on Amazon.com. For more information, please visit my link tree at Easy One-on-One, and to access my latest podcast, A Teaching Moment with Mr. B. Thank you all for listening.
A white supremacist assassin seeks revenge. Corrupt FBI agents with evil intentions. Dangerous black collaborators dedicated to treason. Occam Jeffers must defeat them all and somehow survive. One misstep and he's a dead man. Join Occam Jeffers as he looks the devil in his blue eyes and tells him, Black first. A sequel to the underground hit War of the Heart, Spirit of 1811 Publishing presents God Love Us, on sale at Amazon. Pre-order and save today. Visit spiritOf1811publishing.com and show your love.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Natural Body Butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slaveries and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening. And on the subject here of the model minority strategy backfiring here, on the subject of that, believe it or not, we've got no less than Roland Martin, who's actually said something semi-useful here. What? Shocked me too. Damn! I know. But believe it or not, he actually did. Now, for those of you who are unaware here, Nikki Haley, the aspiring to be Anglo-Saxon East Indian, was running around doing what she was doing, saying that America has never been a racist country. So, of course, she was just being completely and totally ridiculous there. But that's what you have to say there when you've sold your soul what little bit you had. So Roland Martin actually weighed in on this. Found this to be very interesting. Roland actually weighed in on this. And I gotta tell you here, now, as you all know, I am no friend of Roland Martin. Absolutely not.